now I want you to answer for me questions about the design process. So what do you think is like the biggest misconception about branding and marketing a baby business?
Okay, so branding is a huge topic, and it's probably the most misunderstood topic. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, because it is confusing, and it is so big. And I think a lot of new business owners think of branding as a logo and a website, or just something simple like that. But branding goes much deeper than that. The logo and your visuals are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to branding. There's so much underneath a brand that really makes it connect with the audience, the consumers better, that really makes a brand a brand. So that's everything below the surface. So figuring out your messaging, your positioning, and how you're connecting with the customers, that's really what a brand is all about. So they have something to align with, something to believe in, and the brand really forces this, well, not forces, but conveys this through their branding. And that is, like I said, their story, their messaging, how they're talking about themselves, their brand voice. All these things are actual part of branding, not just the logo and the visual identity. So that's what I specialize in. I work on the brand strategy and how the brand is going to grow and better connect with their consumers. And it's not just a logo and fonts and colors. Although I do that, I specialize in that too. That comes after strategy. So we always focus on strategy first and then move into design after. So when you think of branding, think of it as a whole cohesive unit, not just the visuals. And in terms of marketing, marketing comes after branding, in my opinion, because you need to do all that core work first, and that will influence how to market your brand and your business. Because if you don't know who you're targeting and you don't know how your brand is positioned, how are you going to market? Who are you going to market to? And if you're just wasting money if you don't know that. I think that's the biggest branding mistake that small businesses and even mid to large businesses make these days.
What does that even mean? Like brand positioning, what does that mean?
Good question. So this is why it is so confusing, and that's why we're here to guide you through that process. So positioning, you know the difference between a Mercedes and a Hyundai, right? They're positioned differently. One is premium, one is budget. So you target your consumers in different ways. You have different visuals, you have different messaging. So you're going to talk to someone that is into luxury brands much differently to someone that's into the budget kind of brand. So that same idea is applied to business. You need to other brands as well. You need to know how you're positioned in the market. So where are you in relation to your competitors? Your competitors may be more expensive, or they may be more friendly, or have better customer service. So you may zig or zag away from this and position your company as super premium, best customer service, and have like a totally different look and feel. You talk to your clients differently, and that's how your brand is positioned. And the strategy side of things works out how to position the company right to really outs the competition, and really you find your niche in the market based on that positioning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, like in your example of Mercedes and Hyundai, like, I mean, I know that they're speaking to me differently, and I recognize that they are, but if I was behind the scenes, like, what am I, because they're both speaking English to me. So then it's hard to dissect what you're saying about you speak to them differently. Like how do they speak to me differently? I know they do, but how?
When I say speak, it's not just like words on an ad, for example. It's how they communicate and everything they do, how they talk, what their ads look like, what fonts they use, what colors they use, and the general style that they have on the outside. That is just some of the messaging that is different. So that's how they speak to you in different ways. And for example, let's say like a lower end, like a used car salesman, they use different tactics like sale, lowest price ever. Whereas luxury is like, you go into it's premium, like there's space everywhere. It's like you focus on this beautiful product, and it's a different feel. There's no sale signs. You won't even find the price, I imagine, because it's a super premium service. So that's how they speak into it differently. It just has that different tactic of how they're selling. So when that bring that back down to your business, and figuring out what's right for your business. It's figuring out who your customers are, what your price points are, and what type of visual identity can be used to communicate these ideas.
Can we use me as an example?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so how, like if I cater to small businesses and mid-sized businesses, but let's say I want to transition to larger businesses, what should I be doing and what should I be tweaking so that I can reach the right person now and make that transition smoothly and not so abruptly?
So let me ask you this. Why do you want to target these larger clients?
I'm not saying I'm going to, but I'm saying that there are lots of lawyers that do prefer to, corporate lawyers do prefer to target larger businesses because they have deeper pockets than a solopreneur who's just starting out.
Yeah. So it's the reason I ask that is because your goals are to get higher ticket clients, and you want to work with these larger agencies because you can get a higher check, So that's a goal of a lot of people, but a lot of the time, their marketing and how they position themselves isn't actually up to scratch to what they're trying to achieve. So it comes down to what your brand is all about and who you're trying to connect with. Do your values align with these big companies? Like, if you're a one-person show, maybe they don't want to work with a one-person show. They want to have an agency that has reputation of working with other companies. So you want to appear like that. You don't want to just be seen as a sole freelancer that may not have the experience, even though you may do. They just don't see it that way. So your marketing and how you position yourself and your website, your persona, your influence, and all of that, it's going to influence them and to see how much they trust you, really. And yeah, you have to see how you are positioned. So I hope that clears it up, because it comes back to how they're seeing you.
Somebody who's just starting out, I mean, it sounds like they don't have a lot of options in terms of positioning then, do they? Like, what are the options for positioning then if you're just a one-person show?
You have so many options because it comes down to finding your niche as well. And in terms of designers, there's so many different niches, and you could go super granular. Like, you could focus on restaurants or vegan restaurants, for example, or even go deeper than that as well if you really want to vegan restaurants in my hometown. So you have that niche, and that's how you position yourself. That's how you stand out. And like, if you're a vegan restaurant and you're wanting to open a vegan restaurant, who are you going to call? The person that specializes in vegan restaurants in your hometown. It's like, it's so simple, that idea. So if you figure out what you want to do, you figure out how to do it based on where your clients are and how you're going to be in the market. So if you're just starting out, you have to have these goals in mind, who you want to work with and what you want to achieve, and like flip it on its edge or flip it. So, or what do you say? You turn it backwards and work it backwards, to figure out how to do it.
Oh, okay. Let's say we've identified who my target audience is, the way I should be speaking to them, what my visuals need to look like. Then what's next?
Yeah, so once you've established your brand, you've worked on your internal branding, and you've got your visual identity, your brand identity, so your logos, fonts, colors, and what your brand's going to look like, you're going to move into your marketing. So whether or not that's your website or flyers or social media, depending on how you're talking with your potential clients, that's going to change. So that would be the next step. I generally recommend working on strategy, then design, and then the touch points, which is your marketing. They all kind of go hand in hand, but generally that order is what the process looks like. So yeah.
Your strengths are, I want you to tell everyone.
So my strengths is brand strategy, branding, logo design, identity design, and website design. So I've done all of that for 15 years. For all the big clients that we like Nike and Disney and Jerry Seinfeld and Powerade and like big brands. And I worked in New York at an ad agency working with these big brands and got a lot of experience that way. So I've really took all that knowledge in all those different realms, and I combine it into my business, Just Creative, and I do all of these things for particular clients to really build their business, grow their business. So yeah, I started as a strategy. start on the strategy, then move into the visuals and the logo design and the identity, and then help them grow their business with marketing material and even building out their website as well. So I know a good deal in that realm, copywriting, landing pages, converting, and all of that. So I have a full 360 approach to growing brands, and that's really how I stand out and offering that as a service.
But what's the difference? Because you said identity design and logo design. So
yeah. So identity design is logos are part of that. Identity is what your brand looks like, what it feels like, even what it sounds like. So it's your identity. It's who you are. So if you think of a brand like a person, it's the emotions, it's what you look like, what you dress like, it's a personality. So that's what a brand is. If you think of a brand like a person, that's a good way to think about it. And the logo is like a person's face. It's what identifies them. The identity is everything else.